strengths are on fire. Oh, it's Nathan's Knucklehead podcast show for us all. We're Knuckleheads unite, big ideas stand tall. Real estate and life with a whimsical twist. Once you tune in, it's a show you won't resist.
Hey, Bridgette, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming. I try not to be a guy that says, hey, welcome to the podcast and the typical one-liners, but there's nothing else I can think of saying. So just grateful to have you on. How are you?
I'm doing great, Nathan. It's so wonderful to join you. Appreciate you tapping me on the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. I saw you're doing the podcast circuit, and so I had to get you on my humble little podcast. And I know you were doing some podcasts of your own too, and I wanted to submit to you. I think you should rename your podcast Bridgette Ruiz's Diary.
I like that. That's a good twist. I think now I can add some real substantial stories. When I first started the podcast, I didn't have, I think, as much concrete real estate experience, right? The real estate investing period that I've gone through over, the last, I'd say, year or so is just, I've changed 100% and I've experienced a lot more. I think now my podcast, I do need to revive.
Yeah, no, that'd be great too because of all your CliftonStrengths experience too. I mean, if every one of your guests did that and like you kind of like dissected a little bit, that itself would be worth its weight in gold. That's just a suggestion, but I know we were in the Project Forward, so Pace Morby, their mentor, had us do like 3 podcasts and stuff. So I did mine too, but I never uploaded them because I feel like I didn't have any experience and it was just kind of lackluster. But now that I have a little bit more experience, you have a little bit more experience. Here we are. Did you
Love it.
did you feel like you're recording those few episodes that you did they like open doors for you, or did they do anything for you besides just learning?
They have. And people, first of all, one of my things is a relator. So I really do connect with people. One-on-ones are very comfortable for me, and I love that. And what I appreciate about these podcasts and every opportunity to just share a little bit about myself is that we attract, right? We attract people. And what I've noticed is that the people that I'm meeting, whether it's those that are in attendance and live in these types of recordings, or even afterwards, people still watch them. And I forget that these even exist, right? That, that they're still out there. And yeah, I really find it valuable. I hope to add value to others, right? And it's been great. I've been able to meet some wonderful people.
Yeah, people in like your inner circle watch them too. Like I watched yours, back in the day. You interviewed Michael Natsakanian, and you were just recently on JJ's podcast. So I feel like everyone I will ever hope to interview has already been on JJ's podcast. So it's a good kind of a source of like, hey, like what are the questions that have been asked or which ones, haven't been asked yet. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now? Because like you mentioned, you've grown and you're doing a lot now. And so just want to hear like what you're doing, like what your main passion is and, where you want to go.
I love it. Thank you. Thanks for asking this, because I think I fall in this umbrella of, oh, she just knows CliftonStrengths. And although yes, that is a part of me and how I show up, but it's only just a little sliver of what's important to me. And my passion really is behind real estate investing and sober living. And so when I first arrived in the space of sub 2 and our community that we have in common, it took me a while to figure it out. Took me a while to really find the thing that brings me energy. And for anybody who's watching this, if you're not certain that what you're doing is the right thing to do, just sit back and think, am I feeling energized? Do I love what I'm doing? If tomorrow I had nothing else, would I get up and do this one thing? And do you love it? And that is the question that I kept asking myself. I kept asking myself, what is this? What is this? And eventually I found my lane in raising capital. So I do raise capital for single family homes in North Carolina and other states, because I do now have a new business partner. And so we are focused on those sober living properties. We have our operator, and I built the relationship. And oddly enough, it was based around CliftonStrengths that broke down that like barrier between the operator and myself. I'd called them for 7 months, had sprinkled conversations here and there, and they would be very, not just, well, I know they're busy. I know they're busy. And so it would be a little difficult to get responses. And my market in particular in Greensboro, North Carolina, and the surrounding area, it was taking a while. And you kind of get a bit of doubt. And my doubt never really stopped, because I knew my passion, and it was to help serve those that are in recovery. And so when that happened, when I finally kind of had that breakthrough, that opportunity, they said, "Hey, we're having an open house. I'll send you the flyer." I booked it. I booked a flight. I was like, I'm going. I need to go. And I live in Southern California. So I flew across the country to go see the operator. And that is what I learned in 2024, is that you need to have the operator first. You can't have the property and no operator if that's what you're trying to do. And so, for the sober living space, establishing that relationship was really critical. And so that took place. Hopped on a plane. Sometimes it requires literally going and physically seeing them, and that changed everything. So the communication is open. I'm getting text messages from them now. It's like, it's not just a one way I'm chasing, they're coming. And I love that it's in the consistency. It's in not giving up and being dedicated, and knowing your passion and your why is a big part of that. So that's, I think, for my journey, I've raised capital for, sub 2 deals. I've now established this really good relationship with an operator for our sober living properties. And this isn't just in North Carolina, we'll be across the country, but my business partner and I are focused there first. So yeah, a lot going on.
No, that's amazing. I don't know if you're allowed to mention names or anything, but I'll just go ahead. I'm trying to get Adam on the podcast too, and we've been talking back and forth
Yeah.
and too. And then he mentioned to me about obviously you guys being partners, and I had talked to both of you independently. So I feel like he's a super interesting dude too. I'd love to hear about him and his coffee shop. And I had a bunch of questions all written out, and our schedules haven't matched up yet. But I'm going to send him this podcast to encourage him. I
Yeah.
wanted to
No.
show. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, did you like send him your Clifton strengths, or did you refer to like just your guys' personalities meshed, your strengths
This
meshed?
is a great story, actually. This is a great story. I'll try to make it quick. So I talked about when we first get into just finding your place. And when I first arrived into Sub 2, I wanted friends in North Carolina. One of the very first was Adam. And so Adam and I had a one-on-one call. I said, "Hey, how can I help you? I don't know really kind of where my place is just yet." So I started calling direct to seller, and we kind of, I wasn't my love, again, going back to the energy, right? If it brought you energy, go for it. I didn't love calling direct to seller, but I learned the 4 pillars. I knew what I was looking for when I was having these conversations and how to help the seller. And then, we just, I don't know, we just drifted, but we were always friends, and we always knew that, we were kind of along the same path, and he's always doing a whole lot more than I am. But when I saw in the chat of a Zoom that we were on, in fact, we were just talking about this, the goal setting, and I see him in the chat, and I had I knew it was time to reach out and say, "Hey, I think we could work together. What do you think?" And with his strengths, he didn't have his CliftonStrengths assessment, and it's a requirement now. As far as I'm concerned, anybody I do business with, I'm going to want to make sure I know, their strengths. And so I said, "Hey, do you have them?" And he said, "I don't have them." So I'll pay for it. I'll send it over to you. Here you go. So he took the assessment. And I just said this last night. I was at a meetup. I said, "Do you know that I always find that I ask of other people their strengths, but very seldom do I have someone ask me about mine." And Adam did ask about mine. And that to me just kind of solidified that, I've got a good person that I'm working with, and I really do appreciate Adam. It's going to be a good journey. I know that we're headed to some really good things.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about yours too, because this is kind of like a breaking the fourth wall question. But I wanted to like ask you, what about your Clifton strengths made you want to get into Clifton strengths? Like, what is that in someone that makes them want to be a Clifton strengths coach?
Yeah, there are very common themes that we know, like, are very common, right, for those who become a coach. But I mean, anybody really, if you really love dissecting and understanding and helping somebody dig in to understand what breaks through, right, what helps them to be successful. And really, quite frankly, it could be anybody. I mean, there is not a cookie cutter response. I'm sure there are very common themes in us and those who are coaches. I just know that I'm a high achiever. Responsibility. If I say I'm going to do it, I will do it. And I feel like those are some really strong attributes, right? And I need somebody who has the same energy as me. That's another thing with achievers. I gave this one funny little analogy the other day, just talking to another person, and I said, hey, I can't work with, think of Winnie the Pooh, right? I can't work with Eeyore, I'm more of a Tigger, right? So I need somebody who's a Tigger. And that's what's very common of achievers. Achievers do like working with fellow high achievers. So I find that in myself that I can't work with somebody who's not at that like same energy and that same level. So, that's important for me. But my strengths, being a high achiever, high responsibility, relator, I do love the one-on-one. And the one theme that has held strong and solid throughout all of my assessments, I've done it twice, is the arranger. And an arranger is like a project manager. So I am very good at juggling a lot of things, keeping all the balls going and moving. And when I sit back and I look at what does that look like? Well, in real estate investing, that's really important. I think those are some pretty solid themes that show up for me. And I just adore the ability to work with people and understand how they show up. And if they're open, that's the key. If they're open and willing to be a little vulnerable and say, okay, yeah, I laugh at myself at the things that I know are not, but I didn't always show up that way. And I know not everybody does. So it's a journey. Surely it's a journey.
Yeah, yeah. I'm betting your strengths are a lot more developed now than they were, when you first took it. What would you say about so I got achiever, responsibility, relator, arranger. Do you have your top five memorized on off the top of your head?
I do. Number one's a ranger. Number one is achiever. Two is a ranger. Three is self-assurance. Four is
Okay.
relator. And five is responsibility.
Oh, nice. So you have them memorized. That's cool. It's like a
Yeah.
quiz, pop quiz. Now do the next, do 34 from, 1 to
Yeah,
34.
from 1 to 34. I can't, I'll tell you the last two, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I
it's,
also wanted to just say quickly to the audience over here, Clifton Strengths is a great personality test too. We're not going to spend the whole podcast talking about Clifton Strengths, but similar to like the Myers-Briggs or the Big Five, Clifton Strengths is um, one of the best, if not the best, you know, personality tests, but it's specifically focused on your strengths and relates, has it arranged from 1 to 34, and then there's like a 38 million, 1 in 38 million chance or something around that number that someone has the same top five strengths as you in the same order as you. So it's a good personality test. I had to take it when I was in college, going through school, and then I took it again after meeting you. So the top 10 stayed pretty darn consistent,
I
and
was going to ask.
it really
Yeah.
helps.
Did you see a big
Yeah.
difference? Was there much change?
I in the top five there was a good amount of change. I think like three of the top five weren't there before or something like that because I just went through a lot of life stuff. I went from like single person going through school and then to like a married person, like, working a few jobs and trying to support a family. And so like your kind of values and goals and your, I don't want to say your strengths change, but like the things I've been working on like are the kind of filling in the holes of what my strengths were missing. But the top
Yeah.
10 stayed very consistent.
hmm Yeah, and those top 10 are the ones that just really do shine. You do, I know I see them. I see well into like number 12, actually, and how I show up. And that's what I usually ask my clients too, is usually like, where do you see that kind of fade, right? Where you see with certainty, like number 12, for example, is futuristic. And I see it. I know when I'm sitting in the space of like, I can see the future. I know what it looks like, and let's get there, right? And that shows up. And that's number 12. But that's just, what, because I'm self-aware, I think it's a little easier too. But that takes, everybody can kind of see that for themselves too. That's great though.
Right.
That, and it's true, as you were sharing, right? Like your themes. Thanks for pulling that up. Yeah, your
Yeah,
themes
just a
will.
good visual aid. Like right after you just said like this isn't your like this isn't your main passion. I just want to like get this out of the way so we can, for someone that's never seen this before, your Clifton Strength 34 results. Here's my top five too. As you can see, I'm a super like thinking type of person. I like to intellect. I like to deliberate. I like to be analytical. I like input. I'm a learner, ideation, a lot of thinking type stuff.
hmm
So if you go down here, Clifton Strengths is really awesome because they kind of give you a full breakdown of all this stuff. But there's four main personality types, four personality groups, right? Tell me if I'm saying that wrong. The domains. executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. And from my understanding, executing and strategic thinking, I'm really high in. Uh,
If you keep
I,
going, go down a little bit further. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. That bar
oh, there we
chart
go.
right there. That helps you see. You see that green and then the executing, those two pretty
Yeah.
close. Yeah.
And then you, from what you said too, influencing is one of the lowest people strengths that people are common in. Like not many people are really high in influencing,
Right.
but I'm extremely low in it in relationship building. I'm just curious, where are you at on these top four domains? Like what are you
Yeah.
really excelling at? I'm guessing
I
executing is the
excel.
number one.
It is. It is. I'm definitely in the purple domain with executing in the first spot. Strategic thinking, I think, comes in number two. I don't know. I think my influencing and relationship building. Who knows now? Because with raising capital, I'm going to do it again. Actually, I've done. Like I said, I think I took this. Now it's 12 years ago when I took it the first time, and then maybe 4 years ago. But everything has changed. Everything has changed. And to your point, big life events and how you show up at the time that you take the assessment, it matters. And I know even when I look at my results, it does matter what's going on in life and where you are, but who you are at the core doesn't change too much, right? You're not going to go and upheave, and generally speaking, not going to see that, but we evolve as we go through life, right? Through our journey.
Right. I wanted to ask you too, what for you is what do you think is a good set of skills for or strengths for capital raising? Like what in here makes you like drawn to capital raising or appreciate it more? And what do you look for in a person when you're looking to work with them, to partner with them? Because that's a big thing you mentioned is partnering with the right people and knowing yourself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack with those. I see two questions right there because you've got
Hmm.
what are the potential themes that you might see as a capital raiser? I think one of the themes that, there's several, but I mean, as you're building relationships, because that's capital raising is a relationship, and it's two ways, right? Yes, I'm looking, right, for those who might want to invest and earn double digit returns, but at the same time, will I be able to work with that person, and are they going to do their parts, right? Because it's a give and take. It's not just one side. It's not, it does require both parties to take action. And so the things that are important to me is, are they going to communicate, right? Will they be responsive, and will we have fun working together? But as a capital, like somebody who raises capital, I think, you feel energized, or you may not feel energized by just spending time with people, right? And I think you learn, I think most of us learn the people in our lives who drain that energy, and then the ones who just help invigorate, right? And I want to be that person who helps invigorate. And I love that. I see even that in myself. But when I'm as a capital raiser, I'm not even high in woo. So the theme that is your number 32, which is winning others over, right? Those that like to win others over, that might be a capital raiser. I do know other capital raiser friends that do have high woo. That might be a theme you might see. Doesn't mean that you can't raise capital. So that's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying it might just be they feel energized by meeting people and trying to win them over. I don't even have woo all that high. I don't know. If I redid it now, it might be higher than it was before. But I think anybody who just can connect with people, right? And a developer, somebody who likes to train, right, is also probably a really good individual who can, because it's a process, right? And you have to feel that you trust the person and can help them learn what they need, right, to do. Because many times if we're new to being a private money lender, which by the way, I've lent before, I need to lend right now. I'm like, I have a problem. I got to find something to make my money work harder for me. But then when I'm raising the capital, right, I'm educating. And the beautiful thing is, again, my background, and I've had a very long career in human resources, right? I I do this all day long with people, right? I'm working with people. So it doesn't mean that you have to have certain themes. I mean, if you're doing a job where you're working and giving instructions or leading or guiding people of any sorts, you could be raising capital. So it doesn't necessarily have to be certain themes, but very likely, there's a few. The relator theme also might be one. So that's your number 5.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you'd probably feel pretty good about having those one-on-one type of conversations, right? As you're trying to raise capital, for example, right?
Right.
Because you enjoy that getting to know somebody at a deeper level, right? And that happens when you're raising capital, because you truly are trying to understand, are we a good fit, right? Am I a good fit? Is the deal really a deal? And help them understand that we're raising this capital, we're going to provide you some passive returns while we do all the hard work, and you get to sit back and just let your money work hard for you.
Are there any red flags on here that you see that you're like, hey, I would not lend money to this guy. This guy is not trustworthy.
No, I would never say that. You know why? Because what I have learned is that sometimes life happens, right? And the borrower may go through something, right? Could be either one, the borrower, even the lender, right? And when life happens, this is when it matters most, is when you need to communicate or figure out, how do we get through this if something has happened, right? And I've experienced this myself, right? Where you might need to talk through some of those things, but if that person isn't open to like really being able to work through it, like I had to walk away, right? I just had to walk away. And that's the reality. Like, you kind of have to make those calls, and they're tough. They can be tough, but it's business, and been around the block a few times. So I'm learning how a skid knee, maybe even a broken leg, can happen from time to time. And that's just kind of, you have to learn from it. And as we were talking about a minute ago, it's what you do in those moments. You got to get back up, got to keep going at it. If you give up and you quit, you're not going to win. So you got to keep going. There's
Right.
no
Yeah.
success in that.
What's your why that drives you, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for asking. Kind of going back to the whole pain thing, right? Of life. Because anybody who tells you that life is easy, then I don't know what's wrong, because life is pain, right? There's pain in life. And I grew up in a household with alcoholism, and I love that these things happen in our life, and I don't look at it as a woe is me. This is a learning opportunity for me to say, I am going to be able to help other people. And I'm doing this because I'm thinking about the family members of those who are in recovery, right? Because they're the ones suffering. They're the ones who only hope that this person they love will get back on track, right? And that's my why. And I literally fell into tears one day. It happened in the shower. So I literally washing my hair, and I was like, started crying. And I realized that why, and that my entire life had prepared me for this. And I'm not just talking about like living the life in with alcoholism, but then I started to think about my career, and I was in human resources. So I was training and developing, and I was, working with people and benefits, right? I know 401k plans, and many of us who invest, we might be using some of our old 401k money, right, from those plans and those employers, and using that as, we may lend, or we might buy properties. We might even buy businesses with that money. But at the end of the day, I realized my entire life has prepared me for this. And I feel as though God has given me this journey in order for me to help others. And it's not about me. It's the passion comes from just that whole life experience of where I've gone and where I'm going. And I woke up yesterday and I said, I just have a beautiful life. I feel so grateful. I just have wonderful friends around me. I have other investor friends, like-minded people, all that love on me. I just had a birthday. I had so many, so many, birthday wishes. It was, again, I just feel like the whole life journey has prepared me for this.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a great day. It was phenomenal.
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot to go there. It sounds like with your past, your why, like helping people out is good. I mean, it's important to you, and you found a good partner to help you along that path. So sober livings is a big thing that that you guys are doing. Are you raising money specifically for sober livings, or you mentioned raising capital for all sorts of things?
Yeah. No, my raising will primarily be for sober living, although I'm sure there's going to be occasions where I might work with somebody else and help them. I've met some really wonderful people, and I think that, the right people, and I really mean this, it takes time to find them. Like I said before, kind of that energy that we attract, right? We will attract people. And I have noticed that even in myself, is that I feel the people who gravitate to me and that I gravitate to them. And I have some phenomenal female real estate investors and or business. Actually, one of mine is she buys businesses, right? Yet we still come together. And when we think about accountability partners, which I highly encourage anybody and everybody to find, this other accountability partner, she buys businesses, I buy real estate, and yet somehow we always provide value to each other. And it's because we're like-minded, and I love that I've attracted and they've attracted to me, right? Like they were seeking me out. So I mean, it's just, I'm so grateful. There's some really wonderful people in the world, and you just got to find them.
When you meet someone for the first time, do you hand them like a Clifton Strengths Finder, a brochure, and say, hey, like you got to take this before I talk to you? Or do you guys just kind of know each other and then you kind of you kind of sense what they're good at and what you're good at and how you guys where that energy is coming from?
That's so funny you ask, because I have gotten definitely a little bit sharper. I know I've gotten sharper because when I meet somebody, if I spend a few minutes of time with them, I might be able to pick up their strengths. Like the last person I worked with, I just, you observe, and I see them and how they show up, and I was able to guess their number one theme. In my head, of course, I wasn't like telling them that, but in my head, I was like, I bet they're a learner. And then sure enough, when I got the results back, it was like number one was learner. But what I've learned, especially in real estate investing, I think in the business world and in corporate, it's very different. You do focus on the strengths at the top. But what I learned in 2024 was that it could be the things that sit at the bottom that caused the problem. And what I did is I went to ChatGPT with my new partner and I said, hey, by the way, hey, Adam, let's just look at the bottom, right? Like, let's just take a look. That's just for us and we'll never know the thing that could be our issue, but let's just toss it in ChatGPT, right? What does AI tell us could possibly flare up?
That's so smart. You put
And I don't need to be emotionally attached to it, so I want AI to do it for me. And voila, it gave us a list of stuff and said like certain things that for us to just be aware of. But what I appreciate about Adam was that Adam was just like, yeah, let's do it, right? And we'll have the conversation we've talked through, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk through. I go back to these things. We all have to go back to them because sometimes we're not open to receive that information, or maybe we just don't see it at the time. Like you read, I think many of us probably go through it, an unconscious kind of moments as we, absorb information. And so sometimes we overlook things. I go back to my report all the time. I need to go back to looking at my report. Certain things will jump out at you.
right. Oh, man, I had a question right there. I thought that was really smart that you guys, because I've done that. I put my report into ChatGPT and like ask questions about myself. But to have a partner and you put both your reports in there and like have ChatGPT analyze it, that's really smart. I never thought about that. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
And ask about the good, and then ask about the opportunities, right? Like what could we run into that just because, again, that was the lesson I learned last year. It wasn't about what was at the top. What was on the top was phenomenal. Like it was great. But what bit me in the bottom was what's down at the bottom.
Yeah.
But I'm trained to look at the top. So I was always I'm going to look at the top. And then after it's like, I should have really been looking down at the bottom, because that's where our issue kind of flared up at.
I don't trust anyone that has positivity really low at the bottom because they're all a bunch of Eeyores to me. Just kidding. That's my number 34. What is at your bottom?
Yeah,
We'll start with what's your greatest weaknesses, what are your greatest fears, and then your social security number.
lay it all out there. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
just open it up.
funny? Yeah. You know what's funny? And I think this, again, this goes back to you still have capabilities and you're still able to do anything that you want, because my bottom was activator, right? An activator is that just, they don't even think, they just go and do it, right? There's not a lot of time that they want to sit in and figure something out. They just go and they'll fail forward, right? Or fail and fall on their face, but they just start it, but they don't finish things. So they all have like a good side and a not so good side, all of the themes, right? And so although my activator showed up down at the bottom, and psychologically, I'm like, what do you mean I don't get things done? I'm like, no, I know I get things done. First of all, I'm an executor. Like, I get things done. I'm a high achiever. But high achievers, for example, they need direction. So you could be doing things all day long, but you're not really doing anything that helps your business or that moves you in the right direction. You could be just busy work, just doing the things, feel great because, yay, I've done it all. But then you didn't really get to your goal or where you need to go. So you need somebody who helps you see what's the vision, right? You might need that visionary. You might need somebody who helps tells you, okay, this is where we need to go, or hey, we need to go in a different direction now. So let's move a different direction. So I've learned that about myself, that the activator, even though it sat very low, it doesn't mean I'm not capable of getting things done, because I do. I know I get things done.
Right, just need like a partner to complement you. Because you're high achiever, I would think that would go very close to activator, but everyone's different. So it kind of sounds like you need someone to help you start the task and like, every now and then like course correct you. But like you're gonna achieve when you're on that task, whatever task it is, you're gonna achieve and be the best you can at it. Does
Yeah.
that kind of summarize it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you said that you're high in responsibility and self-assurance. So like getting those tasks done, I imagine is really important to you. How has that showed up so far in capital raising for you?
Which
And
one? The
just
well,
specifically the achiever activator dichotomy.
yeah, yeah. I love process improving. So I'm also a high learner, right? And so when I see something, I'm always looking to, okay, did I do it to the best of my ability? So I'm going to do it better next time, right? But when it comes to raising capital, and I think most might just think, oh, raising capital, that just means you get the money, right? Well, that's one step, is to get that commitment that somebody says yes, right? But now you got to work with the law office, for example, right? Because you're going and you're having, a deed of trust. You're working through all of these things to help protect the lender, right? So again, going to my high responsibility of, I'm going to make sure that this person's money is protected. I'm treating it like it's my own money. And I'm also going to help educate them in this process, right? And so as I raise capital, one of the things that have found is that, like, even with my own themes, that it's an evolution, right? We're learning, we're growing, and we're helping. And for me, I'm loving to help others along while they get to sit back and earn those returns. But you need to trust that person, right? You need to be able to feel like this person's taking care of me and they care. And I do care, because I know what it's like when somebody doesn't care about your money, right? And that came from a place of pain. So every time we talked about this a little bit offline before we started, was that all the growth happens in pain. It doesn't happen when you're sitting pretty and everything's going good and rosy and great. It's in those moments where you feel pain. And I have felt pain. I've lent and I've had some really bad deals, right? But then I've also had some really good ones. And now I know, okay, yes, it is possible, right? That I can lend my money and my money will come back. Great. And I'm also in turn raising capital for Adam and I for our sober living properties. So whether they're going to be in North Carolina or in other states, that's our goal.
Yeah, I mean, if I was lending my money to someone, and I am lending my money to someone too, because I think it's important to make your money work for you. But I would definitely want to lend it with someone that's high in responsibility, that is, an achiever, that's one that's been on the losing end of that, and then also seeing what it's like to win. So you have the experience of things going wrong, and you also have the experience of seeing things go right and knowing the difference. That's very self-assuring for, I think, anyone that wants to lend money with you, or anyone you're raising capital with. I was curious, are you raising capital mainly from your investor circle, or is it non-investors, or you just have a big mix of both?
A mix of both. There's platforms like LinkedIn, huge, huge platform that,
Oh man, I got to get in there.
yes. So, it's a long career that I've had in human resources. And so, of course, I've built a very, a pretty good, healthy size. I continue to grow it today, right? My LinkedIn, but that platform is also a great place to be able to find those who may be looking to lend, right? They need passive, they're busy. They've got professional lives. They don't want to be out there doing the hard work. They want their money to work for them. So even that platform is a great place. I use between LinkedIn and even those in our community, but those outside of the community are also people that I'm working with as well.
That's great. I'm really interested in capital raising. I'm trying to do that too and finding a way to do it like legally and with all the rules out there and also trying to find um, a way to do that. So that's a point of high interest to me. So I like how you're excelling at that right now too. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in the future? Like anything, because you have a 5-year, 10-year, 1-year goal?
I do. I do. I was just asked this question last night, actually. I live
Uh,
in Orange County, California, right?
I saw you were at a meetup you posted on
I
the
was.
Instagrams.
Yes, there was. Pace was supposed to be there, and unfortunately, he had some shenanigans at the airport with his luggage, so he didn't make it. But everybody was there, and you don't waste. We don't waste time. We still do our networking, and someone asked me that last night. They said, "Well, what's your kind of long term? What do you envision in the long term?" And I very quickly, although I haven't really, and I need to spend more time in this, is just like really map that out of what that looks like. But I do know what it looks like because I know, Adam and I will have a team. We'll definitely have a lot more systems in place so that we're not, having to do, kind of the day to day, some of the things that we're doing today, but we'll be able to grow a team and make more business where we can work on the business, not in the business. That's the plan.
Right. Who are the type of people that you need to meet in order to make that happen?
Yeah. So here's the beautiful thing, right? Again, I've hired people. I've unfortunately had to let people go and fire people. And so in the workplace, those skills, I know that talent, and that's again why I think I love CliftonStrengths, right? Is that you see talent and you see things in people. And I see very quickly the people that I can tell are going to be just, they give it their all, right? They're hungry, open. You have to be curious, right? If you're not curious, if you're not willing to want to learn or grow, you can't train somebody on that. That is not a trainable skill. So if they come with that that sense of wanting to learn, those are the types, right, that I would be adding to my team, right? And so I know that, as we grow, as we, get momentum and things are moving, I mean, already I can see that we're going to have quite a few things happening here very quickly. So, I one day want to do this. If I could do it today, I would 100% do, and spend all of my time, within real estate investing. And until that happens, we'll be building to that place where we're working on our business, not in our business.
Right. Yeah. So you have to promise to come on the podcast every 1 year, 5 year, and 10 years
I
to
will.
see your progress on that. I,
I will.
I also wanted to ask too, a couple just like kind of circling around. I don't know what this says about my personality, but I print out like a list of questions and then like I don't do like 80% of them, but as we're getting closer to the end, I'm like, oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. We kind of touched on that, but I didn't print them in like I want to get to a point one day where I'm putting them in order. So I'm like a really organized person. I'm like a semi-organized person. I'm like I have a good idea and then I kind of execute, but I need someone to like arrange it a little bit better. So
No,
I'm
but it's
looking
an
for.
organic conversation. You're doing great. This is wonderful. You don't have to have it, that means maybe, where's your adaptability? Maybe you're pretty high on adaptability and you can navigate because, I mean, an organic conversation is,
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere high on there. Let's see.
I think it was in your top 10, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken,
it's somewhere
adaptability.
there. Number 4. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought I saw it pretty high.
Yay. Cool.
So that's a good thing. I mean, you can go with the flow. You don't necessarily have to have a script. And these are conversations, right? That are when they're organic, they're more meaningful. Maybe
Someone who's really organized. Thank you for Bridget for saying that. I really appreciate it. It's pretty good for an only child to have a good conversation. Just kidding. That's the relator in me. But what would you say is someone that's good in uh like organizing and being a really strong integrator?
Mhm.
If you could pick like one or two like of the top strengths you want to see in an integrator, this is for not just for me, but for you too. Like you want someone to organize your spreadsheets, you want someone to run the numbers
Yeah.
in your
You know,
business.
What I have seen so far, and I love me a good integrator, right? I do. I've seen some really good ones too. Analytical and focus, really good, right? Because if you're able to see, because the analytical, um, they kind of they think about all of the factors, right, that might affect the situation, right? So somebody who's analytical, just they kind of have that idea of what might be those roadblocks, what might be those things, and so they're the analytical mind, right? But with some focus. So if you're able to like really hone in on the numbers and just spend that quality time, but they're able to focus and be able to do that, that those are some really good themes potentially.
What are some themes that you think people, investors in particular, undervalue, but in reality may be a game changer for success?
What was funny is, I've seen a lot of. Let me share some things that I've observed, right? Because I've done a lot of these assessments with other investors, and interestingly enough, sitting very low on many of us, myself included, is harmony. And harmony sits a little low, I believe, for real estate investors because we just kind of anticipate that people are people and things are going to just flare up, and we're just not going to necessarily feel the need to like sit in that space and expect things to be all in harmony, in flow. We know that, for example, if you're working with a seller, they're going through a lot potentially, right? With the creative deal, we might be going in that direction. And then just anytime people are dealing with money, I mean, you see some crazy and interesting things, right? Because there's
Yeah.
money. I mean, think about it, right? Even with loved ones, anybody inherits a house and all of a sudden like you just go, what just happened to this person, right? A little bit of money will change somebody, right? Greed will change somebody. So what I've noticed is that harmony sits kind of low in several of the folks that I've looked at when it comes to real estate investors, and that's just observation, right? I think your question, if I'm not mistaken, oh my gosh, I veered off from your question.
No, you were answering harmony is a good one that investors undervalue or maybe sit low on. Like that's just something that they're not living in harmony, probably because we're grinding each day and we're always on the halfway through doing a bench press, a mental bench press, and so there's not a lot of harmony in that. You're kind of in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Is there another one that you think is like undervalued that you're like hey, this one like we don't really put a high focus on it. Like for me, like I think I'm super smart because I got intellection and you got achiever, so you're achieving an activator. Like those are all like very. I don't say they're all extroverted, but like how we kind of value being extroversion. We value getting things done. I think I used to have achiever as like really high up on mine, but yeah, long story short, is there anything else that you see as, if you see on someone's strengths and like it's just as not as valued as some of these other ones?
What I find, and this is again one of those things, you cannot teach somebody to do this, you cannot train them, you cannot expect that they will show up this way, but the theme with belief, I personally, again, going back to like a little bit of money, greed, right? Like things change for people. And belief is the theme that really emphasizes that they have core values, right? That there is ethics, right? And they are not wavering in in that space. And for me, it sits very high for me as well, is belief. It's in my top 10. That's important, right? Think about it. When we think about the people we're working with, do they have core values that they live by, that they feel is important? One thing I kind of have a sense, and I'm not quite certain I have yet, I need to test it out. And I do, I have folks at church that I have a feeling that those of us who have just kind of something that creates the core values, right, of living life, maybe, in a space where we do right by people, right? And I think that theme is really important. And I know for me, right, like I want to work with somebody who has high core values, who's ethical, right? Like when I lent, right? One of the very first times that I lent my own money, I was, you're trusting people, right? And you're hoping that they're going to do what they said they're going to do. And yes, there are things in place that you can put, to protect, but, at the end of the day, are they really a good person? Are they going to do what they said they're going to do? And do they hold values at a high level, right? So
Right.
belief and responsibility, like those themes, those are really, for me, I think those are some really powerful ones. And when I lent, and if I'm going to hurt anybody in a transaction, it will be myself first, right? So that's why I was practicing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna lend myself because I want to know what that looks like, so I experience it, and then I can help others when I'm raising capital for my own, right, for our own projects. And so, kind of sitting in that space, there's a lot more trust and doing our due diligence to make sure that people show up the best that they can. And I always feel like I'm open and approachable, right? That somebody will come, feel safe, right? Feel safe enough to come and say, hey, there's kind of a problem. Like, it's okay. Tell me the problem. We'll figure it out, right? Like, it's all right. So that's important.
No, that makes sense. I think just as not just a lesson for investors, but anybody is, if you don't, well, let me start with the positive. If you do believe in a moral authority that's watching you, that you're accountable to, at the end of the day, you're more likely to make, ethical decisions with that belief in mind, because there's a lot of things you can do, or there's a lot of, you can go around someone's back, or go over someone's head, whatever the phrase is, but you can do a lot of little things that are not ethical. But if you know that you're held accountable to a higher standard, like a perfect standard by God, then you're not going to, I don't say you're not going to, because
We're all
we're
human.
all creatures of, yeah, I mean, we're all sinful creatures, so we're all going to mess up. But with that in mind, that practice in mind, like, you're less likely, that belief, you're less likely to do that. And I think it goes along with some of the other strengths too. Like you mentioned, like being responsible. You're dealing with someone's money. Like, you want to be responsible with that. You want to be, have the utmost integrity.
Yeah.
And so it's good that you have that too. That I want to promote anyone that's going to lend their money, lend it with Bridgette.
Thank you.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how high is your emotional intelligence?
Wow. Okay. I'm human, right? And I think I was really tested with the last business partner. And the last business partner, I was really sitting in a space where I was looking at how am I showing up? And again, going back to feeling like, do I allow a space? It's about how you make someone feel, right? Life is those relationships, and saying, like, do I feel like I allow people to be themselves, and that I show up? And I feel like I'm not perfect, but I don't know, I'm probably 8 out of a 1 to 10. I'm
Okay.
sure there's always opportunity to be better, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel pretty high. Like, I feel like I understand, how I try to show up for people to feel comfortable and know that, they can be their authentic self with me, and let's just do it together, right? Like, I feel like I got a pretty good handle, but I'm human, and boy, do I wrestle with emotion, right? Like, we all have some emotions that we may feel, but I go back to, like, meditating. Definitely. In fact, what time is it? Oh, it already went off. I had my 10 a.m. and I have a 2 p.m. My alarm chimes, and it's like, all right, what's happening in my body right now? Can I
Yeah.
feel my feet? Can I feel, like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to do that, because I am so focused, and I will get so just got to get things done. But let's just check in. I do it twice a day, 10 a.m. and 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's super interesting. Yeah, that too. We're doing it right now. Look here. Where's my headphones? They're right here. No,
Right? Yeah.
no, that's great. No, that makes total sense. I'm sure there's like a really good question hidden in there, but like I can totally see that, where you're so focused on something, or we can get focused. I want to just say it, just I want to point out just you, but like, just people with that are, obviously we enjoy an investing community because we're trying to plan for the future. We're trying to build a better future. And that's a big part of that is like self-development. So there's always like daily homework and going through the reps of, building, your investor acumen, your knowledge, your relationships. Like, there's like a checklist, right? And like you have these goals, and like, you're checking each day, like, what, is progressing me towards these goals and what aren't progressing me towards these goals. And like I got to cut out the bad stuff. I got to cut out the bad people in my life that aren't helping me. But then you stop and you realize like, oh, okay, like I'm in the moment. Like I need to like, take care of myself before I have a nervous breakdown or there's a what am I looking for? There's a point of diminishing return if you don't stop and just like meditate or pray or
Mm-hmm.
just take a chill pill for 5 minutes or 15 minutes a day or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's always a go, go, go. And it's like, wait a minute, wait, what's really happening in myself right now? And it literally I need it to chime. I need my phone to tell me that because
Yeah.
I will just keep bulldozing through and not even stop and check and go, okay, and just take I even have a 1 minute meditation. Just for 1 minute, you just stop and you just take some breaths, inhale, fill your lungs up with air and exhale and know that, okay, my body, this is what's happening in my body right now.
Yeah. I had one last question on that is it's sort of related is say what you mentioned is like just stopping and getting in tune with yourself. But say there's someone that took their Clifton Strengths and they're trying to be a real estate investor or what have you, and it's still not clear to them what gives them energy because you talk about that like do what gives you energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have any recommendations? Do they need to meditate a little bit more, or do they need to just talk to more people, or just wait till it appears, or is there something they can do?
Okay, so we're thinking the real estate investor who's trying to find their lane.
Yeah, their
That,
passion, their energy.
yeah, their passion, the energy. Thinking about, reflect on what you've heard as feedback from other people. And what do they tell you that you're really good at, right? And reflecting in that. And like this last week, I have a new boss, right? I have a W-2 still, and she's brand new. I literally just like 4 weeks. And she kicked off a conversation and she told me, she says, your energy is so comforting. And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm a nutcase. Like I'm just like I'm kind of quick and I'm like all over the place. And to hear that feedback, it helped me understand that perceptions of others, right? Because this is the reality for someone else, right? I may not see it, but somebody else is giving me this feedback. And so think about that feedback that you hear from people about how you show up and then think, okay, well, if in this case, right, like maybe I make people feel comfortable, it's a great attribute to say, hey, maybe I can raise capital or I can talk with the seller. Maybe I don't like doing it like knocking on doors and seeing them. It might be a conversation on the phone, whatever that might be, right? I know many of us get in, myself included, and start calling direct to seller or what have you, or to agents. I love me a good agent. I will have a great time in conversation. Just had a wonderful one the other day with somebody in North Carolina. And she told me a little bit of nuggets about some of her dreams and things. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's great. Like, next thing you know, we're able to text each other back and forth, right? And she's helping me with some listings that, there are possibilities now. So connecting with people might be that thing that you love and just find what you love and also think and reflect on what kind of feedback you've received. Because that's a really good insight into how people may perceive you.
Right. Yeah. So connecting with people, like still taking action, like testing things that kind of, I think that was in there too, is like testing, hey,
Mhm.
you tried calling sellers and that didn't work. And then you talked to someone that like told you something that really made you see that you're good at making people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart, taking all the information in too. Is there a place where you can like take in someone's information when people tell you, hey, you're not good at that, like, you need to do this better? Is that help too?
It is. Yeah. No, I think there is a lot. And that depends on the person receiving it, right? If you receive it and you're open, because like I've had relationships that I can think of where we could talk about our things and it was playful. I was like, hey, by the way, this might show up for you. It's not in the best of light, right? Like this won't serve you very well.
Right.
Were they willing to take that information and actually do something about it? That's up to them. I can't control them. I can't force them, right? Let them. For anybody who's following Mel Robbins right now, she has a phenomenal book, Let Them, right? You can't control people.
Right. So know thyself is a good message for anybody too. As we're wrapping up, I wanted to just see if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about if there's any way that people can help you out in your journey, like the people that are you're looking for, or the people that you need, or the people that have private money, like how do they contact you? How do they
Yeah.
message
Yeah.
you?
So LinkedIn is a great place, but I also love me Instagram. It's become, I was never really heavy user of Instagram. I am now. I really like that platform. So you can find me with my last name first. So Ruiz_Bridgette. And that's one of my favorite places now. I love Instagram. Good, easy way to direct message me, or LinkedIn. LinkedIn, it's just, the LinkedIn and Bridgette Ruiz. You'll be able to find me there.
Nice. Okay. Is there anything I missed or anything else that would be helpful for people to know? Do you want to dissect the 34 top skills, or like how to step by step raise capital for sober livings?
Yeah, the one message I think that's important for everybody is that just what you just kind of said, Nathan, is know thyself, right? Know yourself first. Are you somebody that others will want to work with, right? Will you show up for them? And if something happens, if just anything happens in life, just be open and communicate those things, right? Because it's not that they're bad people, right? Sometimes things happen and they just don't know how to process it. They don't know how to deal with it and work through it. But knowing that about human behavior, and we all know this, but communicate, right? That's critical, I think, for anyone's success, regardless of whatever you're doing, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in real estate investing, whether it's with your family, right? You need to communicate. If you don't communicate, people don't read minds. So that would be my parting message, is just, to be our best self, communicate. um, I'm here to serve, so I'm happy to help anyone who's curious or who wants to learn more about what I'm doing, or even how I can help them. I'm definitely available for that.
Yeah, that's great. I highly recommend anyone that's watching now or in the future to reach out to you on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm gonna create a LinkedIn page after this.
Yes.
I just heard Hunter Thompson talk about LinkedIn, so I'm gonna do that. Another capital raiser.
Mhm.
But yeah, other than that, Bridget, I appreciate all the time that you spent here today. We're over an hour now, so I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I really hope people reach out to you too.
Thank
And I look
you.
forward to seeing you in the future too. Like I'm excited to see what happens a year from now.
Yeah, me too. I'll be happy to come back.
Yay, cool. All right, Bridget. Well, have a good rest of the day. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you,
Everyone, message
Nathan.
you. Go message Bridget. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.